It's your boy Amreezy, and welcome to this week on StocksFC for the week commencing April the 22nd. What a week it's been in football. It's been a crazy week. In terms of European football, in the last week that's just gone, we've had 4 English teams go out of Europe, which was unexpected. I don't think people were expecting that many teams to go out. And I mean, that affects StocksFC massively because we're approaching the end of the season now. We've only got 7, 8 games left. And Europe was a big part of sort of people wanting stocks for teams that were in the European competitions. Because outside of the Premier League, we've only got the Euros in the summer. We've got a few European games, and we've got the FA Cup final now. So we had the FA Cup semi-finals as well. So those were the only sort of extracurricular activities, basically. Those were the only extra competitions that we were hoping that stocks could get points for. Other than that, it's just the Premier League. So Man City and Arsenal both went out of the Champions League. West Ham and Liverpool went out of the Europa League. And I think that's affected stocks a lot. I mean, maybe people didn't have West Ham stocks, as many West Ham players, but Liverpool, they had a lot of Salah, a lot of Luis Diaz, McAllister stocks up out there. Manchester City, I think a lot of people were expecting Manchester City to beat Real Madrid. They did dominate that game and then lost on penalties. It was a bit of an unfortunate result for Manchester City, but it affects the Stocks FC community. So we've seen the prices of stocks now kind of going down. You look at the stocks at the moment, there's a lot of Rodri stocks, a lot of Liverpool stocks, Arsenal stocks, all going down a little bit in price because people are thinking now if they're not going to make team of the season, they've only got the Premier League games left. And I think a lot of people were banking on them staying in Europe. So with Stocks FC in its sort of early stages as a site, it's very interesting because maybe next season, at this time next season, it won't be quite as impactful because there'll be more stocks on the site. It'll be a bigger site. But at the moment, with the site reduced in terms of the amount of stocks you can only get Premier League stocks, and then all of the players aren't there yet. A lot of the big players aren't there. So team of the season is a big thing for a lot of people, especially with bigger portfolios, a lot of stocks invested, people are worrying. For me, I'm still it hasn't changed my position. Yes, I have Manchester City and Liverpool and Arsenal stocks that are going to get a lot less chances to get in team of the week because they're not playing as many European games. However, I still think some of those stocks are likely to get in team of the season. The likes of Salah, the likes of Declan Rice, should still be making team of the season. It does make it interesting, though, if you're looking at stocks to target team of the season now that could challenge them, because those Manchester City and Arsenal stocks aren't as powerful, aren't as dominant, and aren't as likely to get team of the season now. So it does make team of the season interesting. Stay tuned. Join Stocks FC. I think, we'll still, the prices are coming down, but if you're going to be in this game for the long term, now might be a good time to invest in players that you think long-term holds could be worth it. Maybe next season, certain stocks are going to be in team of the months. Now is a good time maybe to be investing in that. It has made me a lot less willing to invest, though. I am holding off. I haven't made any investments since last week. I'm kind of now waiting till the end of the season, waiting to see what happens. I might pick up a few IPOs. Those are the kind of last stocks I might buy. IPOs that I think could be long-term holds. I'm not really thinking short-term. I'm not thinking in-play. I'm not thinking team of the week. I'm kind of thinking long-term now if I'm going to be buying any stocks. So that's a little overview of how European football has affected Stocks FC. Let's start off by taking a look at the last weekend. Who made the team of the week? Let's get going, people. So we had some midweek European football. We had the FA Cup semi-finals at the weekend, and we had some Premier League games. This is the team of the week. Your top 5 scorers from the team of the week are: in at number 1 was Bruno Fernandes with 108 points in that crazy FA Cup final where Manchester United eventually beat Coventry on penalties. Bruno Fernandes, though, in the regulated time, had a field day, 108 points. He was the top scorer this week. And it was a good week for midfielders because in at number 2 was another one, Wisa at Brentford. Now, he's basically a striker, but he's listed as a midfielder in the game. So great score from him, 91 points. He was a number 2. Wisa comes in at number 2. At number 3 was another midfielder, Bailey, and again, another midfielder, technically, who was basically playing as a striker. So Aston Villa had a really good game. And they sort of had Watkins kind of playing as the hold-up man, but they had Diaby and they had Bailey just bombing up forward, bombing up ahead of him, and he was almost kind of holding up the play. I watched the Villa game, and he kind of reminded me a little bit like Harry Kane in the way he was kind of a little bit deeper, a little bit bringing in those other attacking midfielders. So Bailey was the third with 82 points. Number 4 was Eze. So all 4 midfielders in the team of the week were the top scorers from this team. Eze came in with 77, a crazy score for Crystal Palace. And I did say in the last video, if you're thinking of some short-term punts, Crystal Palace with Eze and Olise are great picks because Crystal Palace are picking up a little bit of form towards the end of the season. They're both rumored to always rumored to be leaving in the summer. So kind of, even if you wanted to pick them and then think they might move in the summer. And with the fixture they had a field day. They had a great time. So Eze with 77 points came in at number 4. And the number 5 was Moussa Diaby with 61 points. Again, Aston Villa. So Watkins, annoyingly, who I own a lot of Watkins stocks, I was hoping Watkins would be the one this weekend to get the points. He kind of, he got a few. He got in the team of the week because he got, I think, 2 assists. But the midfielders were the ones from Villa to go for this week. Bailey and Diaby. I mean, Diaby was in midfielder, but he got a better score than Watkins. So that's your team of the week. If we look at the top stocks that paid out, the top payouts per stock, in at number 1, very good for me, was Declan Rice. My best player this week was Declan Rice, $20 per stock on Declan Rice if you own him. And that was one of the reasons why a few weeks ago I went in so heavy on Declan Rice and why he's one of the stocks that I own that's of the highest amount, because I thought he's got a low ownership. There aren't that many stocks of Declan Rice compared to the other big guys. So when he gets in team of the week, happy days. The rest of the players were Bailey at Villa. Again, Bailey's been a surprising one because Watkins is kind of like the target guy, the guy you expect at Villa to get the points. Bailey's kind of come back in the team recently. Him and Diaby have kind of had a funny season where they've kind of shifted in momentum, where it was like Diaby started the season as the kind of second guy alongside Watkins. Recently, Bailey's come in, and now the weekend you saw both of them playing. So I think with Villa still in Europe, still pushing for a Champions League place in the Premier League, Villa kind of seem very appealing for stocks. So I think Bailey, Watkins, and Diaby are 3 stocks that if you've not got any of those, they're still worth it, I think, at the end of the season. So let's see how Villa finish. Maybe they can push for team of the season places as well, because they've got more games now than the likes of Arsenal, than the likes of Liverpool. Let's see how they go. Bailey was number 2. You got Casemiro. Christie at Bournemouth. Who saw this one coming? He's only just had an IPO as well. So if you've got some IPO stocks of Christie, you've already got a nice little payout here. Wisa, Paulinho, Rodri. I've got some Rodri stocks. Maguire, Kane. Even though he's not playing in the Premier League, he's still on StocksFC as that lone non-Premier League stock. But with Bayern Munich still in the Champions League, Kane has a few chances to still get in the team of the weeks. So he got some nice in players. And Havertz, which seems a funny one, Havertz. It's like he's in, he's out, he's in, he's out. His form is all over the place, but it does mean that he has the occasional chance to make team of the weeks. It does seem Arteta likes him over Jesus now, over Nketiah, over Trossard, I think, as the striker. So we could be seeing Havertz finishing the season as that number 9 for Arsenal. So a potential one to keep an eye on. So they were the best stocks for the weekend just gone and the midweek previously. Let's take a look at my portfolio and kind of what I'm thinking of doing. The players that I've kind of got my eye on for the remaining games of the season. Okay, here we go. So before I kind of show you my portfolio, how it's looking, what the profits are looking like, there's some IPOs, some new IPOs this week, and they are interesting, I think, slightly more appealing to me than last week. Last week's IPOs, I kind of dismissed. I wasn't really interested in any of them. However, this week, I think all 3 are interesting. All 3 seem to be playing, are key players for their clubs, could have long-term Premier League careers. I think Jefferson Lerma at Bournemouth is a good player. He's got a good chance of getting in team of the weeks, possibly if Bournemouth have a good fixture that week. I also think, he could move. Say Bournemouth It's unlikely that Bournemouth are going to get relegated, although they're in that sort of slightly dangerous position still where it could happen if they collapse at the end of the season. But, he has the potential to move, possibly. I think he's a solid player for Bournemouth, Jefferson Lerma. I think the other two, Harvey Barnes at Newcastle, on his day, is a very attacking player, dangerous. Also, again, if he does fall out of the team at Newcastle, he's one of those players that his stock is still high. He has a good reputation. If he left Newcastle, he'd get a mid-table Premier League team. I think someone like Fulham or Crystal Palace or that's that type of team. I think Harvey Barnes has a kind of good career ahead of him. So a long-term hold there for Harvey Barnes. I think he could be a good stock. And Konza at Villa, likewise, very versatile. Can play centre-back, can play left-back. Villa, like we said earlier in the video, have still a lot of games to go this season, more games than anyone else now that they're the only English team in Europe. So Konza is a good pick. I think out of the three, I'm leaning towards these two, Barnes and Konza, because Barnes is at the best team of the three, and I think I say Konza possibly also. Konza and Barnes, they're at the best teams, and I think good picks long term. So I've got a little bit of money in the bank for Barnes or Konza. They're not available right now. I'm gonna spend the rest of the week weighing up who I want to go for. I think the only thing that would stop me buying these is, like I said earlier, I think this week I might be buying some Aston Villa stocks. So it could be these Konza stocks. I need to sort of look at the fixtures a bit more in detail, study the Villa, how likely are Villa to be getting clean sheets, how likely is Konza to be staying in that team. If I'm not fully convinced in Konza, I will be going for possibly Diaby or Watkins, possibly a few more Watkins stocks. Or, possibly not Villa. There are a few I put on screen, the stocks that I'm also thinking about. Those are Pedro at Brighton. And that's partly because of his stock value being so low. A lot of his price is dipping at the moment, Pedro. And he's one of those stocks that I'm kind of thinking of, with the end of the season coming, I see a lot of people selling stocks that I think they're thinking, okay, they're not going to make team of the season. Pedro's not likely to make team of the season anymore. But I think he's a young player. I think with Brighton, it could be interesting what they do next season. They have Pedro, they have Evan Ferguson, both are young strikers. And, Chelsea are rumored to be signing a striker this summer. I think a lot of clubs, Arsenal are rumored to be wanting to buy a striker this summer. Evan Ferguson, I think, could be on one of those teams' watch lists. So I think if he leaves Brighton, Pedro suddenly becomes a number one guy at Brighton next season. So that's why I'm keeping an eye on Pedro. I'm kind of waiting for his price to come down. So that's why. I've also got Gross on my watch list. I own 2 Gross stocks, as you can see here, I wanted to buy more because he's a really creative player for Brighton. I think Brighton have had a bad season this season. I think the manager also is rumored to be leaving. I think I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to Brighton about what they do next season. If they lose their manager, who comes in? Because Brighton have a good track record of, they lose managers, they lose players, but they always seem to bring in good players and they always seem to bring in good managers. So it doesn't worry me with Brighton that the players, that they've had a bit of an off season at the moment, because I just feel like they always invest well. They always hire good managers. So let's see what happens with Brighton. Let's see what happens with De Zerbi. Does he leave? Does he go elsewhere? There's a lot of big clubs in Europe rumored to be wanting new managers. Brighton are kind of always, where you look to first to kind of go, okay, De Zerbi could go there. There's a lot of Serie A teams. I've even seen rumors of Barcelona maybe wanting him. So I'm not worried about if De Zerbi leaves Brighton, mainly because they've had a shaky season. It might be good if De Zerbi leaves and they get someone else in. So I'm looking at Pedro. I'm looking at Gross from Brighton. I'm also looking at Elise. I did advise last week that if you're looking for a short-term pump, Elise is a good pick. He delivered this week, and I still think he's a good pick for the end of the season with Crystal Palace picking up some momentum. And I think maybe he leaves in the summer, Elise. So I'm looking at Elise. And then I'm also looking at Isaac. I've got a few Isaac stocks, 5. I kind of wish I'd bought more Isaac stocks because I bought him a few weeks ago when he was he's one of my players who's in profit mainly because of the in-play rewards he's been giving me. So he's one I'm looking at kind of investing in more. I'm seeing Chelsea and Arsenal again, rumored to be looking at Isaac and trying to buy Isaac. And then Gabriel Jesus is a player whose stock is plummeting. plummeting right now, I think, because he's picked up a little injury. And also there's rumors that Arsenal want to sell him. So I'm monitoring Jesus to kind of see how low his price goes, because it's really low right now. He's almost at the bottom, lowest price he's ever been at. So if the danger is he leaves the Premier League, then the stocks aren't going to be worthwhile, because StocksFC haven't announced any other leagues that, they've been talking about Serie A and La Liga, that they're going to be bringing them on soon. However, right now it's only the Premier League. So if Jesus does leave, then that's worrying. But I think with his price being so low, it might be worth the gamble that he stays in the Premier League. It might be worth a gamble that, say Newcastle lose Isaac, say Chelsea don't get the striker that they want. I think Osimhen's kind of like their number one target, but if they don't get him, Jesus could be an interesting option for Chelsea, could be an interesting option for Newcastle. There could be a bit of a striker merry-go-round in the summer where Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle all kind of exchange strikers. It all depends on who they get. And I think with that in mind, Gabriel Jesus is a kind of interesting stock. I think if he goes even lower, I'm tempted. So those are the kind of 5 stocks that I'm targeting. I haven't bought in any new stocks since last week. If we look at my portfolio here, there are a few more stocks than last week that are dropping, that are going in the red. I think that is because people are selling their stocks now. People are kind of having a fire sale. So you look at some of the bigger stocks that have dropped for me. Declan Rice, he's down by £4 in terms of profits for me. Now, this does take in his stock value at the moment, and also the in-play rewards that I've won. And also Ethereum's having a bit of a wavy moment at the moment. So that's affecting the prices as well. Salah's down by 2. Again, he's one of those stocks that people are selling because they think he might leave Liverpool in the summer and he might go outside the Premier League. Rodri's having a bit of a dip. Enzo Fernandes, as I talked about last week, is in the red. But with all of these stocks, I'm kind of thinking, Rodri, Salah, Rice should make team of the season. And I kind of want to keep them for that reason. I want the team of the season payouts before I think of selling them. Now with Salah, for example, maybe it'll be too late for me to get a good price. So in that case, I have to gamble that he stays at Liverpool another year. With Rice, I think it's a bit odd that his price is wavering at the moment, because I think he's still got the Euros for England to play and still got a good chance of being a team of the season. So I don't know why people are selling Declan Rice stocks. I'm not planning on doing that anytime soon. And with the rest, I kind of have longer term goals. So Ivan Toney, yes, his price is coming down. Yes, he might not make team of the season, but my strategy with Ivan Toney is he's not getting played at Brentford at the moment. I think because they know they're going to sell him in the summer, which is why I'm holding on to his stocks. Because if he leaves in the summer, he's part of that strikers merry-go-round. Does he go to a better team in the Premier League? If he does, his stock value should go way up, and I've got him. So I'm holding Ivan Toney for the long run. I'm holding Lewis Dunk. I'm holding Foden. A lot of these stocks, apart from Justin Kluivert, I think, which I've got on my orders to sell. Kluivert, I'm trying to sell. I think I'm looking at possibly selling Gibbs White, because I think I've got what I can from him. I think once my in-play rewards are finished with Gibbs White, I'm going to be looking to sell him, because he's given me what I wanted. He was a short-term punt where I was thinking Nottingham Forest want to battle to stay in the league. Gibbs White's a very creative outlet for them. Take the in-play rewards. So far, I've got 28p. And with all of my trading, it's learning for me for next season. All of my stocks, I've invested, not as much as other people are investing. For me, it's about testing the site out, learning like from these values, from the stocks that I buy, who performs well, who doesn't, and who next season I'll copy these lessons with bigger amounts. So Gibbs White, he's one of those players that I think has been a good lesson for me. I bought some of those stocks. I wanted more. It was a case of like getting an order in when he was dipping. I wanted, I think, 10. I got 3.92 in the end, but it worked. So if I take that lesson and do it in the future, I think my targeting good fixtures for who's got 5 weeks of worth of good fixtures, going for those players, regardless of what team they're at, even if it's a team like Nottingham Forest that aren't one of the top teams, going for them and kind of not thinking team of the season, not thinking team of the month, and just thinking short-term punts. with Gibbs White, it's kind of paid off. And I think with a few of these, it's been 50-50. Nico Williams was a player that I got in the IPOs. Hasn't really delivered. I've got 88p's worth of rewards from him from a £3 cost. So that's quite good. But his value has come down recently. I'm kind of hoping with him that he might move. I'm kind of hoping that he might possibly give me 1 or 2 more weeks of in-play rewards and then I sell him. So we'll see what to do with him. A lot of these players are kind of gambles or team of the season contenders. So that's how my portfolio is looking. There are more reds than last week. There's more red than green, which I don't like. However, I think with the team of the season payouts, with some of these possibly having a few more good weeks of in-play rewards, that should make these go back in the green and make sure that I'm in profit with most of them. So I'm being patient. I've got a little bit of money here in my balance. I'm kind of thinking of either investing in some of those Aston Villa players or some of these players that I've put on my watch list. So that's how the portfolio is looking. That's my kind of thinking around it, my strategy around future stocks. Let's now finish this week's video by taking a look at the weekend coming up. There are midweek fixtures as well. We do have a double game week situation for a few stocks. So let's take a look at what I'm thinking about for the weekend coming and who I'd advise you be thinking of for short-term picks for this weekend coming. So let's do that now. Okay, weekend coming up. We've got a double game week. So I'm recording this ahead of the Tuesday fixtures in the Premier League. We do have midweek Premier League fixtures, which will be taken into account next week's in the payout. So anyone playing midweek has a really good chance of, they have 2 chances. The best highest score gets carried forward. So the top 2 fixtures I picked out are Arsenal v Chelsea and Manchester United v Sheffield United, because the reason why are Arsenal and Manchester United both then have another chance to do well at the weekend. So with Arsenal, I think they're playing Chelsea and they're playing Spurs at the weekend. I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm not very optimistic about the Arsenal game. I think Arsenal are going to be really up for it. They need to be. They're pushing for the title. This is the last trophy they have. They're out of Europe now. I think they're really going to go for it against Chelsea. They're really going to go for it against Spurs. I think those North London derbies are, in my head, really high scoring, really sort of, I remember, lots of goals, entertaining games. So I think Arsenal players should be good. They're going to be up for it against both of those teams. Even though on paper they're not the easiest fixtures, I think they're both London derbies. So I think, and the fact that Arsenal have 2 chances, they have 2 games, gives them a good chance. So I'd be targeting Arsenal players if you've not got any. Also, team of the season, they're a good chance of team of the season. If you're not on Declan Rice, his price has come down a little bit yet now. And I think, he's got the Euros still to come. I think that would be a good pick. With Manchester United, they've got Sheffield United at home, and then they've got Burnley at the weekend. Those are the 2 teams I think you'd ask for. If you could have any fixtures, you'd want Sheffield United and Burnley. And Manchester United, after beating Coventry in the FA Cup final, I think there could be a bit of a feeling with them. They've had a lot of criticism for how they beat Coventry, how they scraped through. If they are going to bounce back, Sheffield United at home, who are surely relegated now officially, I think last week was Sheffield United's last week to kind of possibly give them a glimmer of hope of staying up this season. They lost against Burnley. I think now you might see a demoralised Sheffield United. It's an interesting one with the relegated teams, because often you do see surprising results for the relegated teams towards the end of the season, where they're either battling to stay up or they get relegated and then they have nothing to lose. So they give you a few surprise performances. But I think Sheffield United could be in that kind of in-between stage where they know they're going to get relegated, they're demoralised, and it's a little bit too early for them to be giving you those surprise performances. So we could see a really surprise performance from Manchester United. And I'm a little bit annoyed I didn't get in on Bruno Fernandes, because I was looking at Bruno Fernandes when I first joined the platform. I was thinking, who are the players that aren't popular who could surprise us? And at the time, Manchester United weren't in any good form. And I guess you could say they're still not in any good form, but I saw that they were still in the FA Cup, and the FA Cup gives you points in StocksFC. So when I came on the platform, it was around about a month ago. It was over a month ago now. So it was around about here. And Bruno Fernandes had this horrible dip here. And this is when you should have got on Bruno Fernandes. This is when I should have gone for it. This dip here, right there, when he was at 0.00054 ETH. Because then you got the pump, then you got another pump, and then you got another pump. He's had 3 little spurts. And then he was he was the biggest scoring player this week, just gone. He has come down a little bit, even though he was in the team of the week. He has come down a bit here. So I don't think I'll be going for him right now. I'm tempted though, because the Euros are coming up. So he's going to be in the Portugal team for the Euros. He could be in team of the season if he finishes the season strong with Manchester United. And like I said, this week, even though he's just been in team of the week, he's still got a good chance of being in team of the week again. So I'm tempted for a short punt on Fernandes still, because this was his peak. He's come down a bit. If he has a good week this week, I think we could see his price go back up, considering that he's a team of the season contender and a Euros player. So this is probably my stock that I'd pick this week to go for. You know, last week I picked Elise and he did really well. This week I'm picking Bruno Fernandes. Even though he's at sort of a bit of a peak, I still think there's more to go with him. And I think with the Euros especially, Portugal, you know, always seem to do well in these international competitions. So he'd be the one I go for this week. If you're thinking a 1 week punt, I'd go Bruno Fernandes. And that's his graph. The other players I'd be targeting are ones from Wolves and Luton. Wolves in particular, I think Luton are in a bit of a funny position. I think Luton, you're still targeting them, even though they're battling for survival. Wolves should be beating Luton. So I think Wolves are a funny one. They seem to be hit and miss. So I think that's a 50-50 call, Wolves, because you don't quite know what you're getting with them. But there's the potential. Luton at home, there's the potential for the likes of some of their attackers. Sarabia could be a nice pick from Wolves. Pedro Neto's not back yet, but I think, you know, you're looking at those for a good fixture. West Ham be Liverpool. I've put in this because Liverpool are the team you want to target here. If you've not yet got Liverpool players like Diaz and Salah, who are team of the season contenders, West Ham are a little bit all over the shop. They're out of Europe. They just lost to Crystal Palace heavily, so they're going to be demoralised. I think Liverpool fighting for the title. Last cup that Liverpool are in as well. So I'd be looking at Liverpool players. And then Newcastle, I'd be looking at Newcastle players as well. The likes of Gordon. I think Gordon could be a really high scorer this week. Again, against Sheffield United. Sheffield United in that weird demoralised position. Newcastle at home against Sheffield United. Newcastle still going for European places as well. So I think Isaac, Gordon, those are the 2 boys you want to target from Newcastle. Yeah, those are the 5 teams I'd be looking at targeting this week for either short-term punts or short-term picks that could be making team of the season. Isaac, Gordon could be in team of the season still if they finish strong. Also, Gordon could be in the Euros for England. He's unlikely to be in the starting team for England, but if you wanted a kind of pick for maybe a wild card pick, maybe a few of those England players get injured or lose form, and, you know, Gordon, who knows? So those are the fixtures I'll be targeting this week. Good luck with your stocks if you're playing this weekend. If you've not yet joined StocksFC, look below. Look at the link below. Join StocksFC with my link in the comments, and you get 3 free stocks on loan that you get to earn rewards from. Even though you don't own them permanently, you get to earn the reward still. So join StocksFC, use my link below, like and subscribe to the channel, people. Help your boy out if you've enjoyed this content. Spread the love. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know where I've gone wrong, where I'm going right, which stocks I should be looking at. Leave me all of that in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Peace.